जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद okay, so Prabhu's Hare Krishna. We are on a yatra, so that's why I just thought of recording it uh, and having this for all of you. So, so I'm not opening my video because the internet is not very proper, but you should not have any problem for audio mostly. So, what we saw till now in this chapter. So, in this sixth chapter, we are discussing about the Ashtanga Yoga, talk about uh, the Hatha Yoga or the process of the Ashtanga Yoga, the yoga consisting of the eight limbs. So last time, so this first nine shlokas, Krishna is explaining about how one can rise from the beginning stage to the perfectional stage. That is called as the Yoga Arukshu to the Yoga Rudha stage. And so till now, where we were, we have discussed in shloka number 9. In the third and fourth shloka, Krishna explained about what are the two different levels of the Ashtanga Yoga. There's a beginner stage and advanced stage, and how for one to be able to reach to the perfectional stage, one of the main obstacles is from the mind. So then in the fifth and sixth shloka, Krishna explained that how mind is both a friend and the enemy. When mind is being controlled, then the mind can become a good friend. But if the mind is not controlled, then the mind can continue to be worst enemy. So this is what we discussed in the fifth and sixth shloka. And then seventh to ninth shloka is a description about symptom of a person who is in the yoga rudha stage, who is on the perfectional stage, who has reached the perfection of the dhyana yoga. So that we were seeing, so we'll just continue from there. In that also we have discussed it with this shloka number 7, 9. So we have seen shloka was telling about that how a person, a person who becomes advanced in the practice of the Ashtanga Yoga, he becomes Jitatmana, he has controlled mind, now he has attained supreme peace, he has already approached the Paramatma, which means what? He is in connection with the Paramatma, and he becomes neutral towards all the dualities. And the next shloka was Gyan Vigyan Tatma, Kutastho Vidindriya, Yoga iti Uchyate Yogi, Samalostasma Kanchanaha. That how a person he becomes satisfied with the knowledge and the realization. We did a elaborate discussion about how realization is a gift of Krishna. It comes with the mercy of Krishna. When Lord is pleased with our endeavors for gaining the knowledge and for serving the devotees. So such a person also, he is also able to have equal vision towards the pebbles, stones, or the gold. Basically, he is able to see everything in a equal manner, which means what? He has no desire for sense gratification. So that's why he understands how everything is a matter, and this matter cannot give me happiness, cannot give me enjoyment. Okay, so this is what we discussed, and now this ninth shloka. There also we discussed. It was talking about how Kuhin mitrari udasina dhyasta dveshya bandhushu sadhush api cha papeshu sam buddhir vishishyate. I think we will discuss something more about this. Then we'll move ahead. And see now, next section about shloka. Again, is going to again describe about how one can rise from the beginning stage of the yoga to the yoga rooted, the perfect stage. So Krishna is going to describe about the process. you know, how one should eat, how one should sit, how one should fix one mind. All these things Krishna is going to describe. So let us see this. Let us see this. So you see here, we discussed till nine shloka, just little bit more about nine shloka. This is nine shloka. No. So these three shloka, 7, 8, and 9, they're describing about the person. They're describing about the person on the perfectional stage. So see, so no. So in nine shloka, Krishna is also mentioning about it how a person is not equipoised the thing is towards people. No. He's telling Tuhin mitradi udasina madhyastha dveshi bandhusu sadhush api cha papeshu sam buddhir vishishyate. Right? Tuhin means what? Well-wishers. Mitra means what? No. Mitra means friends, benefactors. those who do some favor upon us. And Ari means enemies. Udasin means those who are neutral, neutral towards us, And in our difficulties or in our joys, they will remain equal towards us. They will not have any good or bad feeling about us and our situations. And Madhyastha means what? Madhyastha means mediators. Madhyastha means what? Who also tries to act as a mediator. Suppose if we have ended with some conflict with some other person, then a person will try to help us to resolve the conflict. See, Udasin means what? He has nothing to do. Whether we are having conflict with someone or not, they are in their own world. And, but Madhyastha means who feels for us and who tries to also do Madhyasthata, who tries to help us. You And Madhyastha, Dveshya means envious people, Bandhushu means the relatives, the friends, well-wishers, and Sadhush, Apicha Papeshu, right? Sadhus, those who are sadhus, pious people, and Papeshu, those who are sinful people. Sama Buddhir Vishishyate, right? Sama Buddhir Vishishyate means one is able to see them with equal intelligence. Or basically, one is able to see them equally. So see, here is a description about the people, that how a person who has come to the professional stage, now he becomes no, now he does not or basically he becomes equal towards seeing everyone. Just like there was another earlier shloka, Pandita Samdarshina, Vidya Vinay cha Sampane, Brahmane Kavi Hastini. So there it was also about the animals and all. But in this shloka particularly it is about the people. That a person who have become perfectional stage, what happens is basically he does not uh, see see what happens in this world. No, we see different people as per their potential to give us sense gratification. Like suppose somebody is there who can give us sense gratification, so we try to have friendship with him. Somebody who is coming in between our sense gratification, we try to make them as our enemies. But once a person has become elevated in his knowledge, and then what will happen? He will not, because he has no more the goal of material enjoyment. So what happens then? He treats equally these people. Whether somebody is acting as a friend, somebody is acting as an enemy, somebody is acting as a well-wisher, somebody is a pious soul, somebody is a sinful soul, because one has no desire. One has no desire for sense gratification. So this is the thing. A person is considered still further advanced when he regards the honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral, the mediators, the envious, friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind. It is not so easy, right? When you talk about the objects, it is still easier, right? For example, like suppose in a room you have television, you have refrigerator, you have air condition, you have smartphone. So one can remain undisturbed by the objects, by the matter. One understand that how this is matter, it is not going to give me happiness. So towards these things, one can still remain equipoised. Now, one may not include one's emotion towards all these things. But when you talk about the people, when the people are acting in different ways, somebody is acting as a friend, somebody is acting in a envious manner, then it is very difficult for one to remain detached from them. But a person who has advanced, he will become like that. He will not be disturbed by the different by the different activities of the different people. That's the that's the stage of the yoga rudha. So, so this is there. And now next 10 to 17 shloka now. Again, Krishna is going to describe about how one can practice from the basics, from the yoga ruruksha stage to yoga rudha stage. In this chapter, multiple times Krishna is again telling the process. Again how one can begin and how can achieve the perfection. Again 10 to 17 Krishna is telling. Again 18 to 23 again Krishna is going to tell about how one can again go from the primary stage to the perfectional stage, like that. 10 shloka. योगी युञ्जीत सततम् आत्मानं रहसि स्थितः एकाकी यत चित्तात्मा निराशीर अपरिग्रह. It says yogi युञ्जीत सततम् आत्मानं रहसि स्थितः एकाकी यत चित्तात्मा निराशीर अपरिग्रह. So a yogi, है ना, युञ्जीत satatam is constantly. So one should try to concentrate constantly ना आत्मानं रहसि स्थितः ना rahasi sthita ekaki means alone. So a transcendentalist should always engage. So now Krishna is describing about the process how one should follow the process of Ashtanga Yoga. A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and the self in relationship with the Supreme. Now, yat chittatma, Yat chittatma means, Atma means the mind. Mind should be acting in relationship with the Supreme. So he should live alone in a secluded place. He should live in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from the desires and feelings of the possessiveness. Right? So these are the steps. One should try to engage one's body, mind, and in thinking about the Supreme, in meditating upon the Supreme. And one should live in a secluded place. Rahasi means रहस्यमय. रहस्यमय मतलब कि अलग थलग प्लेस पे है ना, सीक्रेट प्लेस पे रहना चाहिए और अकेले रहना चाहिए. One can stay in a secret place, but one may not be alone. But one should, so here, but Krishna said it, one should go to the forest, some secluded place, and there one should be alone. Huh. Because see, if we are with people, discussing with people, then we cannot go deep in our consciousness. So, but here, so yogi has to go within. He has to withdraw his consciousness from the externals to the internals. So one should do like this. And nirashir. Now, nirashir means what? Now he should be not having any asha, should not have any material desires, and he should also aparigraha. Aparigraha means he should not try to accumulate the things. He should not try to possess the things, because that will again withdraw his consciousness. So this is the thing, Krishna. Prabhupada is explaining the purport about how uh, Prabhupada is making. Thus the impersonalist and the meditator are also indirectly Krishna conscious. No? Even those who are impersonalist, those who are trying to approach Brahma Jyoti, and those who are trying to be doing meditation, Dhyan Yoga, meditating upon the Paramatma, they are also Krishna conscious because they're also able to approach different levels of the Supreme. Like, we know Brahma Jyoti, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. These are the three different features of the Absolute Truth. They are also indirectly Krishna conscious, but Prabhupada is making a point at how one can directly be Krishna conscious. It is much, much more easier. And how a devotee also, so see, anasaktasya vishyan, see how a devotee is also free from the feelings of possessiveness, because a devotee just want to do everything for service of Krishna. So a devotee may also have possessive, also may possess some things, but he's using everything for the service of Krishna. That's the real vairagya. That's called the yukta vairagya. What is making about it, A Krishna conscious person well knows that everything belongs to Krishna and thus is always free from the feelings of personal possession. As such, he has no hankering for anything on his own personal account. He knows how to accept things in favor of Krishna consciousness and how to reject things unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. He is always aloof from the material things because he is always transcendental and is always alone, having nothing to do with the persons not in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi. So, how a devotee is also free from all the material desires, and because he desires only service to Krishna, and he has no desires for possessiveness. You see, in the Ashtanga Yoga, now there are, see, you have these first four things: Yam, Niyam, Asana, and Pranayam. And then you have Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. So these first four, they are called as the Hatha Yoga also. So they are like the physical aspects of the Ashtanga Yoga. Physical means they have to do more with our external activities. Like yama means don'ts, niyam means do's. So one should follow brahmacharya. One should eat in a regulated manner. One should go to the forest. One should sit in a certain posture. This is called asana, pranayam. One should breathe in a particular manner. So they have to do with our external body. They're the external activities. They're the physical aspect of the Stang Yoga. And then there are psychological aspects. Psychological means what? Which are dealing with the mind. Because the ultimate purpose of the Dhyana Yoga is to focus the mind, to concentrate the mind within, towards the Paramatma, or towards the Supreme. So this Pratyahar. Pratyahar means what? Now, shutting our senses from the sense objects, which means basically no sense, not allowing any sense gratification from the senses. And then Dharan, Dhyan, and Samadhi. These are the successive steps in which one can focus upon the Supreme. So they are there. So they are more of a psychological aspects. So this is there. So now something about the yoga, you see. Yoga and bhakti, when you say, like, for us as a devotees now, so we are bhakti yogis. So do we also need to do yoga? है ना? So Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur says in Prem Pradipa, there's a scripture by him. He says that how yoga is harmonizable with but not essential to bhakti. Which means what? Like this Ashtang yoga, asana and pranayam, all these things. See, they help a person to concentrate one's mind. They help to control one's senses. They also help one to control one's mind and to meditate upon the Supreme. So for us as a bhakti yogis, we can also use some yoga. There's no harm, there's no wrong about that. It's not that a devotee cannot do all those things, but it's not that it is must for a devotee. Not like that. Like nowadays in the modern times, many people they are aware about the benefits of the yoga. They are interested to do asana and pranayam, but mainly for keeping their health in a better manner. No, Prabhupada will often condemn this that how in the modern times the yogis, they are trying. The goal of the yoga has become sense gratification. That one wants to do the yoga, so has to have a strong senses, strong body, and then to do sense gratification. But original purpose of the yoga, that is what is being condemned. Yeah. But in the modern times, like many people are showing interest in yoga, so we can use that. If they have interest in the yoga, we can teach them yoga, and from that we can bring them to the higher yoga, which is the bhakti yoga. We can mention that how in the Gita only this Hatha yoga has been mentioned, and then the highest yoga is the bhakti yoga. So it can be used for bringing a person to bhakti yoga also, and for us also the devotees, it can be harmonizable with, which means what? It can help us in our bhakti. It can help us in our bhakti. For example, like just like somebody do some jogging, some walking, which can help to keep our body fit. Same way for keeping our body fit, one can use the yoga, है ना? But it should not be, it cannot be considered as a bhakti. For example, like this, some asana, all these things cannot be considered as a bhakti. They're not bhakti. So they are yoga, which are meant for the body. But what we want to do is bhakti. Bhakti means chanting Hare Krishna, hearing Krishna Katha, studying the scriptures, serving the Vaishnavas. This is the bhakti. So if something is supportive to the bhakti, that can be adopted. Not that everyone has to essentially do yoga only. This is very important. Okay, next shloka again. Further, again, Krishna is now elaborating further about the yoga, different steps of yoga. सुजो देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य स्थिरम् आसनम् आत्मना नाति उच्छ्रितं नाति नीचं शैलाजिन कुशोत्तरम् तत्रैकाग्रं मनः कृत्वा यतचितेन्द्रिय क्रिया उपविश्यासने युञ्जात् योगम् आत्मविशुद्धये. What Krishna is telling you, see, to practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. Right? So a yogi should go to the forest, secluded place, and should he can sit on the kusha grass and he can cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. Right? Why deer skin? Because deer skin is a property of repelling the snakes. So if somebody is trying to meditate in the forest, then there may be some snakes and all. But the deer skin repels the snakes and all, the insects and the snakes. Let's say one can sit on the deer. Of course, one does not have to kill a deer. Naturally, if some deer has died, then one can take its skin and all. So one has to sit like that. And then the seat should neither be too high nor too low. The seat should neither be too high, right? If a sitting place is very high, then what will happen? Again, one will be able to see many, many things around. And then again, one may become distracted. That's why it should not be too high. You know? And should not be too low also. If it is very low, then also, many people may disturb him. Many nearby insects or something may disturb him. And it should be situated in a sacred place. No, it should be a sacred place. It should be a good place. Should not be surrounded by the tamo guna. You know. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on one point. One should fit very firmly. Uh, see? Yat chitendriya kriya upavishyasne yunjyat yogam atma vishuddhaya, right? Atma vishuddhaya. For the purification, why one should do this? For the purification of one's mind. Atma vishuddhaya. Yogi should do this. ना तते तते एकाग्रम मन कृत्वा, राइट? अपने मन को एकाग्रित करके, है ना, इस तरीके से उसको ध्यान करना चाहिए. फॉर व्हाट पर्पस? फॉर आत्मविशुद्ध है, दैट इज बीइंग टोल्ड हियर. These are the steps, So Prabhupada is writing in the Prabhupada is mentioning very nice. Prabhupada is telling about the places that how there are so many holy places where one can go and practice yoga, है ना? On the banks of the Yamuna or Ganges, on the Prayag, Mathura, Vrindavan, Rishikesh, na Haridwar, etc. है ना? Prabhupada is writing, see, now, but often this is not possible, especially for the so yoga societies in the big cities may be successful in earning material benefit, but they're not at all suitable for the actual practice of the yoga. Forgetting one is not self-controlled and whose mind is not undisturbed cannot practice meditation. So if you want to practice meditation, then you have to have a sense control and you have to have a peace of mind. Therefore, in the Brihan Naradiya Puran, it is said that in the Kali Yuga, when people in general are short-lived, slow in the spiritual realization and always disturbed by the various anxieties, the best means of the spiritual realization is chanting the holy names of the Lord. Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nastyam, 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 Vatirgata. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way than chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Prabhupada is again and again bringing in this purpose that how the best means of yoga for this age is the bhakti yoga. Because to practice dhyan yoga, one needs to have one needs to have a very strict sense control, and one also needs to have a very nice mind control, which is not so easy in the Kali Yuga. These some important things, about the process of the Ashtanga yoga. So, see, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's interest is basically to help Arjuna choose the right path for him. So Krishna has not very detailed way described all the yogas in the Bhakti Yoga. Because see, Arjuna is already aware about the different yogas. And here now Arjuna is confused about what he should do. That's why Krishna is just told about the pros and cons of the different yogas. And then, and Krishna wants Arjuna to choose to choose and act, as per the Bhakti Yoga. That is Krishna's desire. So that's why the details of all these different yogas are mentioned in different scriptures. For example, like Dhyan Yoga, there are many scriptures which talk about the Dhyan Yoga, details about the Dhyan Yoga. One of such is the Patanjali's. Patanjali has written about the Yoga Sutras, about this Dhyan Yoga in a detailed way. Just like, suppose if somebody has to choose a career, so then he may approach a guide, which may he tell him about the commerce field and the science field and the arts field, what are the possibilities in those fields, etc. And if one has to really study them, then one has to opt for one of them. Like, one wants to study engineering, or one wants to go for commerce, one wants to go for arts, then he can study those things. The same way, Bhagavad Gita also, it's like a career counseling. It's about a yoga counseling. Krishna is telling about the pros and cons of the different yogas, and then Arjuna is meant to choose what is suitable for him. That way. So the details we find in other places. So see, so this Patanjali explains in his book about what is yama and niyama. So see, there are 5 aspects of the yama, and there are 5 aspects of niyama also. Right? यम का मतलब होता है डोंट्स, जो नहीं करना है. नियम नियम मतलब कि जो करना है. दे आर द डूज. ओके. So he tells about these five different aspects of the yama or the don'ts which one should not do, and what is going to be the fruit of all those yamas, right? What one will gain by practicing those yamas, right? So these 5 yamas are ahimsa, satyam, asteya, brahmacharyam and aparigraha, right? So देखो अष्टांग योगा में आठ आठ स्टेप्स हैं. ओके. उसमें से भी जो पहला स्टेप है यम, उसमें भी पांच आपके चीजें बताई गई हैं. तो क्या क्या अहिंसा, सत्यम, आस्तेय, ब्रह्मचर्यम एंड अपरिग्रह, राइट? यम मीन्स डोंट्स. Right? So don'ts में क्या क्या अहिंसा. अहिंसा means we should not kill the animals, innocent animals, right? So one should not do violence upon the other beings. So what will happen by that? If one will not do violence upon others, then what will happen? Others will also be able to give up their enmity towards one. The ultimate purpose is what? To focus our mind inwards. So now suppose if we have enmity with some people, or let's say some people are having enmity with us, then what happens? Our mind will be disturbed. We cannot focus upon within. So that's why ahimsa helps us to what? For what purpose? It helps others to give their enmity towards us. In that way we can be more peaceful. We can be more focused in our mind. This is ahimsa. Right? Satyam. Now, again, satyam is what? Satyam is not speaking the lies. Again, when we speak lie, again our mind is distracted. But if we follow the satyam, then what do we gain? What do we gain is our words start getting power. Whatever we say, it carries some power. It can be in transformation of other people's life. And even it can also come true also. You know, if somebody has become very pure in his speech, somebody is always speaks truth, then whatever he will say, that will also come true. That comes by the satyam, you know. Then asteya. Steya मतलब होता है कि चोरी करना, स्टील करना, स्टील करने वाला जो वर्ड है, asteya means not stealing, no, not trying to get others property, others wealth, you know. So when one gives up the efforts to get others wealth, then what happens? Real wealth comes in one's life, which means what? One will be able to have spiritual knowledge, one will be able to have spiritual advancement, you know. So by giving up one's attempt to get others wealth, one gains, you know, the spiritual knowledge. And then there's the brahmacharyam. Brahmacharya means what? One should not indulge into the illicit sex. Uh, or indeed, here in the context of the Ashtanga Yoga, one should not indulge into the sex life itself. Why? Because the sex life, you know, uh, we have our inner mental strength. So when one indulges into sex life, then one loses one's mental strength. Now, by which one can be very thoughtful, very contemplative. One can have vichar shakti, dharana shakti, dhyan shakti. All these things can be there. Basically, one loses one's inner power by the sexual activities. So one should abstain from the sex life, you know. And then aparigraha. Now, aparigraha means, you know, इकट्ठा नहीं करना, चीजों को इकट्ठा नहीं करना. So what happens is when you become detached from the desire for accumulating the things of this world, then what happens is we get insight into the karmic cause of our present situation, as well as the way our present actions will impact our future, right? Basically, then see, if you become detached from trying to accumulate possessions in this world, then what happens? Then what happens? By your detachment, you start awakening in the knowledge. You can see that how, you know, the karmic laws are acting, how one cannot get more than one's quota, and how everyone is getting their quota, and how our present activities will also influence our future. Right? All these spiritual tools one can start understanding, realizing. You know, when one is detached from this desire for accumulation. So these are the different yamas and their fruits. You know, ahimsa, satyam, asteya, brahmacharyam, and aparigraha. So you'll find these are more of activities, है ना, for group discipline. है ना, राइट. समाज में अपने आप को कैसे डिसिप्लिन रखना है, उसके लिए एक्टिविटीज आप देखोगे. दीज आर एक्टिविटीज, यू नो, लाइक अहिंसा मीन्स दूसरों के प्रति वायलेंस मत करो, सत्य बोलो, है ना, चोरी चोरी वोरी मत करो, है ना, कुछ इलिसिट इंटेलिजेंस मत करो, दूसरे का प्रॉपर्टी को मत इकट्ठा करो, राइट. तो दीज आर लाइक, यू नो, सोशल डिसिप्लिनिंग के लिए, सोशल सोसाइटी में रहते हुए कैसे अपने आप को डिसिप्लिन रखना है, उसके लिए एक्टिविटीज एक तरीके से आप समझ सकते हैं ना. Right? इसी तरीके से देखिए नियम. अगेन नियम इज व्हाट? ना, नियम इज डूज. नियम मतलब कानून को फॉलो करना है, राइट. अगेन इसके भी 5 एस्पेक्ट: शौच, संतोष, तप, स्वाध्याय एंड ईश्वर प्रणिधान, है ना. So see, these are more of these are the rules for personal disciplining, right? अब डिसिप्लिन करने के लिए मोर ये हैं, you know. See, यम थे मोर फॉर अ ग्रुप डिसिप्लिनिंग, एक सोसाइटी में रहते हुए कैसे अपने आप को डिसिप्लिन करना है. एंड ये पर्सनल लेवल पे कैसे अपने आप को डिसिप्लिन करना है, उसके लिए, like first is शौच. शौच means what? Cleanliness, right? So see, no, so one should remain clean. No, one should try to keep one's body clean. One should try to keep one's mind also clean. Papa says, you know, oftentimes, you know, like one should take bath certain number of times in a day, etc. You know. So what happens if somebody follows cleanliness, no, bodily cleanliness when you do, then what happens? You see, what fruit comes? Detachment from the selfish, materialistic bond to one's own body as well as to the bodies of the others. What happens? You see, when we start cleaning our bodies, then we realize that how this body is not so good. You know, the products of the body are not so good. The body produces sweat, it produces stool, it produces urine, and it does not have any fragrance. You know, people they try to cover they try to cover this bad body with the perfumes and the deodorants. Actually, the body is not so good. What happens is one will start developing detachment from the body when one sees that how the body is body is a body is simply a bag of the dirty substances like stool and the urine and the sweat, etc. And all the more it is misery giving. So this is about the shaucham, you know, that shaucham will help one to become detached from own body and from the other's body also, you know. Same, you know, you'll find that even the opposite sex body also, all the substances are there. There's nothing special about that. So one will be able to gain detachment from the other's body also, you know. The second thing is about santosh. Santosh means satisfaction, you know. So how, है ना, है ना. See, संतोष means satisfaction, you know. So, you see, when we try to go for material acquisitions, no. See, if you want to accumulate the material facilities, then there's no end to it, and one can never be satisfied, right? You take a laptop, and tomorrow some better version of laptop is available. Again, you may want to go for it, you know. So the thing is that how the material comforts are endless. The pursuit of the material comforts is endless, you know. So that's why satisfaction is a matter of choice, you know. One has to decide one's priority. That okay, fine, this much is good for me, and I will remain satisfied with this. So one has to be satisfied, you know. So when one is satisfied with the material things, then one can practice, or one can focus upon the spiritual things, you know. As long as there's a dissatisfaction with the material things, you know, and the thing is that, you know, you have to make a choice. You have to decide. No, it's not that, you know, because materially things, there will be no end. You know, you try to fulfill one desire, then there's another desire, then once you reach to the other desire, then there's another third desire. So it's a matter of it's a matter of choice. So one has to practice satisfaction, you know. When one has satisfaction for material things, then one can think about the spiritual things. Then one's consciousness can approach the spiritual things. That is about the santosh, you know. There were some points, you know. The quest for the material improvement is endless, you know. Material improvement करने का जो हमारा journey है वो तो endless है, you know. So that's why we need to be we need to choose. Yeah. Like, you know, we may say that, okay, I'm not feeling satisfied. Okay, but you have to also decide the parameters for our satisfaction. No. We can be ambitious for spiritual life, you know. We can be ambitious for, you know, learning scriptures, you know, for doing chanting, for helping others, for doing preaching, for doing book distribution. We can be ambitious for that, and that will lead us to happiness also. When we will see that there's a difference in our life, and there's a difference in other people's life, then we will feel very great satisfaction, spiritual satisfaction. One should, so that's a santosh, you know. And then you have tapa. Tapa means what? Tapasyas, no? Which means controlling our senses from the sense indulgence, controlling our intelligence. So, you know, so what happens is when we do tapasya, then tapasya also has to strengthen our mind and senses towards the right use. Right? Like, you know, like the fasting day. So we did fasting. So if we do fasting, then what happens? You know, then our mind becomes stronger. Then, you know, other times, you know, we are so much other times we are so much attracted towards eating different foods. But on the fasting day, you know, we give them up. So then our mind becomes stronger, you know, and we can, you know, become more focused in our spiritual journey. That's a tapasya, you know. It helps us to remove the impurities, and also helps for the perfection of the body and the senses, you know, which means what? So we gain mental and the bodily strength, you know, for using them in the right manner. It's the tapasya. Then swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means adhyan, you know, which means studying of the scriptures, or the scriptures which help us to meditate upon the transcendence. No, Swadhyaya does not include studying material things. No, Swadhyaya means studying the spiritual things. So when we study the scriptures and all, then we'll become more connected with the God. We'll be able to develop more understanding about the God's nature, about the God's laws, about the creation, all these things. That's a Swadhyaya. And then Ishwar Pranidhan. Pranidhan means surrender. So Ishwar means to the Supreme Lord. So one should surrender to the God. So when one try to surrender to the God, then what will happen? One will have complete absorption. One will have samadhi. So that's the goal. That's the ultimate goal, that one should be able to become absorbed into the Supreme. That's what is the samadhi. So that's the Ishwar Pranidhan. You know. These are the different aspects of the niyama. 5 different aspects of the niyama. You know? So they are more for the personal. They are more for the personal disciplining. है ना. अपने आप को क्लीन रखना, सेटिस्फाइड रखना, तपस्या करना, ना शास्त्र का स्टडी करना, और सेंटर करना अपने आप को. दे आर मोर फॉर द पर्सनल डिसिप्लिनिंग. ओके. Also, another thing, you see, the one point, you know, see, all these 8 limbs of the Stang Yoga, na, see, they're applicable to the other yogas also. Like, you know, like you're doing Bhakti Yoga. In the Bhakti Yoga also, we have these things. You know, we have Yam, Niyam, we have Asan, right? Like for sitting, we have certain types of postures we recommend, right? So we have Yam, Niyam, and, Asan, and Pranayam, and Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi also, you know, Pratyahar. Right? So same thing, you know, for any type of processes, this can be applied. Just like for the cricket also, you'll find now. In the cricket also, there are some do's, there are some don'ts, है ना. Now, a batsman is trying to, a batsman is, doing batting. So there are some rules, how he can play, how he can hit the ball, etc. Uh, and he also practices focus. Suppose only few balls are remaining and he has to get some good scores. Then he has to be very much focused. He will focus upon the ball and all like that. Similarly, in DT worship also. For the DT worship also, again we have asanas, we have pranayam, we have do's, we have don'ts. So in general, for all types of the yogas, these limbs can be, there are limbs, like this, and even for the other mental processes also like that. Okay. And the ultimate thing is purpose is what? To have a control of the mind. So this control of the mind can also happen in the five states. Like initially the mind may be very, very dull. So one may be into very deep tamoguna. So that's called as a mudha state. Where one is very much deluded, illusioned. The one is into sleep, laziness, dullness. Right. The next higher level is a shipta. Shipta means what? है mind is very much agitated, like somebody wants to do a lot of things. One wants to work very, very hard, one is trying to do many, many things. And one is always into stress, he's always into stress, anxiety. That's a shifta stage of the mind, that mind is active, but mind is very stressed, overly active mind, Then there's a vikshipta. Vikshipta means what? The mind is distracted, again, one is trying to focus the mind, but again, the mind is very distracted, just like, if somebody is sitting in an environment where there's a lot of noise, so then one will not be able to hear the lecture, even though one may try to focus upon it. That's the vikshipta stage. Then ekagrita. Ekagrita means concentrated. Concentrated means what? That one will just try to focus the mind, just like before the exams. Like for example, like we all have our experience, like in our student days. So every time when we have exams, we try to study very, very sincerely, and we could see that how we have a lot of capacity. In just 2 3 days, we are able to study so much, and every time the thought comes that maybe next time I will study for whole semester. If only I can study with this efficiency, how much better I can do. But it doesn't work. Other times we become distracted. But see, before the exams, you find the mind becomes very concentrated. You will not want to go for movie, you will not want to go for sports. What happens is ekagrak, the mind becomes focused. That's a concentrated state of the mind, ekagrata. And then there's the final state, the highest state is the nirodha. Right? Nirodha means what? Fully controlled, which means what? By default the mind does not go for sense gratification. By default the mind goes for meditation upon the supreme. That's a nirodha state. And so these are the, like, different states of the mind. So anyways, so they are here. uh, Here Krishna was telling about some more ways of how one can do the yoga, right? So again, one should go to a secluded place, should sit on the deer skin, and should also not uh, sit very high, very low, should sit firmly, and should try to control one's mind, body, etc. Okay. Again, further discussion about this next shloka, 13th shloka, 13 and 14th shloka. क्षमं कायाशिरो ग्रीवं धारयन् अचलं स्थिरा सम्प्रेक्ष्य नासिकाग्रं स्वां दिशश्चानवलोकयन् प्रशान्तात्मा विगतभीर्ब्रह्मचारी वृते स्थितः मनः संयम्य मच्चित्तो युक्त आसीत् मत्परः. So Krishna is telling, samam kaya shiro grivam, right? One should keep one's body, one's head, and one's grimum. Grim is neck. One should sit straight. One should keep the back and the head and the neck straight. This is like about sitting posture. One should hold one's body, the neck, and the head erect in a straight line, and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. नाक के अग्र भाग में देखना चाहिए, नासिका अग्रम. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of the fear, completely free from the sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. This is what Krishna is telling, that one should sit straight and one should try to stare at the tip of the nose. Right? नाक के ऊपर में देखना है. See, इससे पहले वाले श्लोकास में एक जगह पे बताया कि आईब्रोज के बीच में देखना है, जो तीसरी आंख जिसको बोलते हैं वहां पे, बेसिकली प्रिंसिपल क्या है? Principle ये है कि, see, no, what happens is, suppose if you close your eyes, then what happens also, the mind becomes very much distracted. And suppose if you're seeing here and there very freely, then also the mind will be distracted. So the principle is that how we should see. So now the tip of the nose or in between the eyebrows, it is not a very attractive place to see. You cannot see much things there. It will not be very distractive. So basically, the thing is that how one should try to keep one's eyes undistracted in this manner, because when the eyes are undistracted, then the mind will also become undistracted. That's the point. And then, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from the sex drive, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. See, यहाँ पे बड़ा है mana samyamya. One should control the mind and see brahmachari vite sthita. One should practice brahmacharya and machito yukta asita matpara. Right? Machito means the Krishna is telling that one should focus upon me and one should matpara. One should uh, one should choose me as the ultimate goal. So see, this talks about the that we discussed now, this Ishwar Pranidhan, that surrendering to God. So here Krishna is telling very clearly that how this is about Ishwar Pranidhan, that one should think about me and one should make me as one's goal. So यहाँ से see Krishna is telling here brahmachari, one should follow the brahmacharya. Right? Brahmacharya means see in the Ashtanga yoga, brahmacharya means one should not, yeah, not only in Ashtanga yoga, in all other yogas except for the Bhakti yoga, one has to have complete abstinence from the sex life, especially the Gyan yoga and the Dhyan yoga. Because the sex indulgence distracts the mind or distracts the consciousness in a very big way. It is very difficult for one to then focus the mind towards the realities or the truth. That's why there's no scope for the brahmacharya. There is no scope for the sex indulgence in the other paths. But in the path of the bhakti yoga, because one gets a very strong taste by the bhakti, that one can easily overcome the desire for the sex life. That's why in the path of the bhakti yoga, that's why even one is allowed to have a regulated sex life, because one can eventually give it up by the practice of the bhakti yoga because of the high taste derived from it. Prabhupada is, Prabhupada is mentioning about this thing in the purport about sex life. So Prabhupada is writing, the the yoga process is practiced in order to discover and see this localized form of Vishnu and not for any other purposes, right? Machito. Right? Krishna is saying that one should focus upon me. The localized Vishnu Murti is the plenary representation of the Krishna dwelling within one's heart. One who has no program to realize this Vishnu Murti is uselessly engaged in mock yoga practice and is certainly wasting his time. Right? So the purpose of the yoga should be to realize the Vishnu sitting in the heart. Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and the Vishnu Murti situated in one's heart is the object of yoga practice. To realize this Vishnu Murti within the heart, one has to observe complete abstinence from the sex life. Therefore, one has to leave home and live alone in a secluded place, remaining seated as mentioned above. One cannot enjoy sex life daily at the home or elsewhere and attend a so-called yoga class and thus become a yogi. One has to practice controlling the mind and avoiding all kinds of sense gratification of which sex life is the chief, right? So in the modern times, people are just going for yoga classes, but they don't have any sense control. That will not work. Prabhupada is telling here. What is brahmacharya? Yagyavalkya says, Karmana mansa vacha sarvavastha su sarvada sarvatra maithunya tyago brahmacharyam prachakshate, right? Karmana mansa vacha, right? Right? Activities, mind, and speech, right? In any way, one should not indulge into sex life. One may indulge with the activity, means one can act, one can actually indulge into the activity, or one can think in one's mind, one can speak about the sex life. So, no, one should not do with any of these ways. And also, sarva avastha, so right, in all the situations, sarvada, all the times, sarvatra, in all the situations, in all the places, maithun tyago, one should completely give up the sex life. That is called as the brahmacharya. Papa is making some very important points here. No, no one can perform correct yoga practice through sex indulgence. Brahmacharya is taught, therefore, from the childhood when one has no knowledge of the sex life. Children at the age of the 5 are sent to the Gurukul or the place of the spiritual master, and the master trains the young boys in the strict discipline of becoming brahmacharis. Without such practice, no one can make advancement in the any yoga, whether it be dhyan, jnana, or bhakti. One who, however, follows the rules and the regulations of the married life, having a sexual relationship only with his wife, and that also under the regulation is also called as a brahmachari. Such a restrained householder brahmachari may be accepted in the bhakti school, but the Gyan and the Dhyan schools do not even admit householders brahmacharis. They require complete abstinence without compromise. Right? Prabhupada is making the same point at how? The Jnana Yoga, in the Dhyana Yoga, one has to completely give up the sex life. Why? Because in the Jnana Yoga and the Dhyana Yoga, because one is not directly focusing upon Krishna. So it is very difficult for one to give up the lower taste. But in the Bhakti Yoga, because one has experience of the higher taste, it is easier for him. Vishya vinivartante, niraharasya dehina, rasavarjam rasopyasya param tishtva nivartate. Whereas others, see Prabhupada, whereas others are forced to restrain themselves from the sense gratification, a devotee of the Lord automatically refrains because of the superior taste. Other than the devotee, no one has any information of that superior taste. So see, when we say brahmachari means, no, it can mean in one way. Brahmachari means one is, one who does not indulge into the sex life. And also brahmachari means brahme charati iti brahmachari. One who is always thinking about the Brahman. Basically, one is always acting on the spiritual platform. One is always acting on the spiritual platform. One is not acting on the bodily platform. He is also a brahmachari. So brahmacharis can be two types. There can be, nastic brahmacharis who does not indulge into sex life at all, and there can be, upakurvan brahmachari. There is a grahastha brahmacharis, who just goes for sex life only for getting the kids. They don't go. They don't go. They don't go in other ways. So Krishna is told about the brahmacharya, right? One should practice brahmacharya. One should control one's mind. And one should make Krishna as one's goal. Think about Krishna as the goal. Uh, Next shloka, 15th shloka. युञ्जन एवं सदात्मानं योगी नियतमानसः शांतिं निर्वाण परमं मत संस्थम आदिगच्छति. Right? Very important. Nirvana paramam mat samstham adigachati. Right? Yunjan evam sadatmanam. Right? In this way, atmanam means यहाँ पे body, mind and the soul. You see, thus practicing constant control of the body, mind and the activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of the God or the abode of Krishna by the cessation of the material existence. So Krishna has mentioned it how. In this way, when the yogi tries to control one's mind, activities, body, in this way, no, niyata manasa, and niyata means, one regulates one's mind, then what will happen? Shantim, he will be able to attain peace, and he will be having nirvana paramam. Right? So nirvana generally matlab hota hai ki, nirvana means stopping of the material life. That is what is the nirvana, stoppage of the material life. Right? So paramam nirvana. Paramam nirvana means the highest stoppage of the material life, which means what? No, entry into the spiritual life. One is no more, one is no more going for the material life, and all the more one is, one is going for the spiritual life. One is going back to the spiritual world. Or basically, one is going for the spiritual perfection. So he gets nirvana paramam. And mat samstham adi gachati, mam samstham, right? Mere sthan mein. He comes to my abode. That's what Krishna is telling, that eventually a person, when he acts in this particular manner, then what will happen? He will become freed from all kind of material desires, material activities, and one will be able to come back to him. Gopal is mentioning, see the point. Now, what is the ultimate goal of the yoga is being explained here. See, here it is told, yoga practice is not meant for attaining any kind of material facility. It is to enable the cessation of all the material existence, right? One who seeks an improvement in the health or aspires after the material perfection is no yogi according to Bhagavad Gita. Nor does cessation of the material existence entail one's entering into the void, which is only a myth. There is no void anywhere within the creation of the Lord. Rather, the cessation of the material existence enables one to enter into the spiritual sky, the abode of the Lord, right? There is no void. The Buddhist philosophy is that, okay, nirvana means, everything can become void. We can also, everything is ultimately coming from void. That's the Buddhist philosophy. So Prabhupada is making it no. There's no void. Ultimately, everything is a creation of the Lord. And the highest perfection is to be able to reach to that to abode. Very clearly Krishna is saying that how a yogi, see, mat samstham adi gacchati, he comes back to my abode. That's the goal of the yoga. Prabhupada is writing, perfection of the yoga system is the attainment of the freedom from the material existence and not some magical jugglery or gymnastic feats to befool the innocent people. The purpose of the yoga is not to gain some mystic powers and to, impress other people. Like now this Kumbh Mela is there. So there you will find many yogis come and they can perform very, very powerful feats. Somebody can just, pull a truck or a jeep, by a simple rope. Now somebody can also sit above the ground, right? So these are all different mystic things which may happen, but that is not the ultimate goal. Ultimate goal is what? Attainment of freedom from the material life and going back to the Lord's abode. So in this regard, Shri Bhakti Thakur says about this story. There was a boy who was having cataract in the eyes, and his father, his father, his one of the friends of the father came, and the father told that this boy is having pain in the eye because of the cataract. What to do? So one friend told that, okay, just remove the eye. The eye is giving the pain. Remove the eye. Father was shocked. Another friend advised. He told that, oh, child is in the pain because of this. I okay, kill the child itself. There will be no pain. That's so far. It was very difficult. And then another friend he told, see, the child is in pain because of the cataract. Okay, get the cataract operated. Then he will have no more pains. So Srila Bhakti Thakur explains about how these three people are. So the first person who said that remove the eye because there's a pain in the eye. Okay, remove the eye itself. So they are like the impersonalist. So in this world, you will find the impersonalists, their philosophy is that how in this world, because there are personalities, see, because all of us have our forms and then we have relationships and we are indulging into different activities, material activities, and we are all personalities. So because of all these things, we are getting pain. No, we are getting pain because of the material body, because of our material activities, because of our material relationships. So all these things are bringing pain. So best is what you know. So everything is Brahma Jyoti. Remove all these things. This is all illusion. This is all fake. The ultimate truth is only the Brahma Jyoti, impersonal Jyoti, and let us just merge into it. Let us become free from all these forms and the relationships and the personalities and the activities. So reject all and merge into the Brahman. That is a impersonalist philosophy. Okay. And then there are voidists. Voidists are like the Buddhists, Shunyavadis, they say. So like, the second friend advised that kill the child. Okay. The child is having a pain. Okay, kill the child, then there will be no more pain. Same way, those who are Shunyavadis, they say that, okay, because of our existence in this world, we are having pain. So best is, deny this existence. That is not, there is no existence. Ultimately, everything is void. Everything is just appearing to be, all these things, all these realities are just appearing to us. But ultimately, everything is void. There's nothing. There's nothing. Everything is coming from nothing. It's basically they want to deny the existence. So that's the second category. And the Vaishnavism is what? That we don't deny the pain. We don't deny the relationships. We don't deny the personalities. And we understand that how the problem is because of the problem which we face is because of our own selfish desires for enjoyment, which are not centered around Krishna. Because we are desiring to enjoy separately from Krishna, that's why we're finding that, because of that, all our activities, all our relationships, all our, different bodily forms, they're all causing us bondage and suffering. But if we understand Krishna, and if we use, if we become connected with Krishna, then there will be no more harm with all these things. The relationships in this world, the activities which we do, like in the bhakti, we are doing different activities. So they all will help us to become more and more advanced in our spiritual life. That's the path of the Vaishnavism. That how the problem is with the eye, the cataract, that should be removed. Same way the problem is because of the enjoying mentality, the selfish enjoying mentality, the independent enjoying mentality which we have. So if we give it up and we use everything for Krishna's service, then our activities, relationships, everything can become meaningful. They can lead us to the path of advancement. This was there. So till now, Krishna explained about it. Again, Krishna will again explain. Again, Krishna will start describing about some more aspects of the practices of the Ashtanga Yoga. न अति अश्नतस्तु योगोस्ति न च कांतम अनश्नतः न चाति स्वप्नशीलस्य जाग्रतो नेव चार्जुन न अति न अति अश्नतस मीन्स ईटिंग तु योगो अस्ति न च कांतम अनश्नतः. Right? So, what is there? There's no possibility of one becoming a yogi or Arjuna if one eats too much. Right? Na ati ashnatas. Right? If somebody eats too much, then he cannot be yogi. Or anashnatah. Right? Or if one is eating too little, then also he cannot be yogi. Or sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. Na chati swapna शीलस्य जागृतो नेव चार्जुन. Right? न तो ज्यादा सोने से और ना ही ज्यादा जगने से. Right? तो पॉइंट है कि कृष्ण इज टेलिंग अबाउट द बैलेंस. दैट हाउ If somebody wants to be a yogi, then one should have a balance. One should eat in balance. One should sleep in balance. No? Purpose is very important for devotees. See, regulation of the diet and the sleep is recommended herein for the yogis. Too much eating means eating more than is required to keep the body and soul together. That too much eating means eating more than is required to keep the body and soul together. There is no need for men to eat the animals because there is an ample supply of grains, vegetables, fruits, and the milk. Such simple food stuff is considered to be in the mode of goodness according to the Bhagavad Gita. Animal food is for those who are in the mode of passion, ignorance. Therefore, those who indulge in the animal food, drinking, smoking, and eating food which is not first offered to Krishna will suffer sinful actions because of eating only polluted things. Bhunjate te to agham papam ye pachante atma karnat. Anyone who eats for sense pleasure or cooks for himself, not offering his food to Krishna, eats only sin. One who eats sin and eats more than is allotted to him cannot execute the perfect yoga. It is best that one eat only the remnants of foodstuff offered to Krishna. A person Krishna conscious does not eat anything which is not first offered to Krishna. Therefore, only the Krishna conscious person can attain perfection in the yoga practice. Nor can one who artificially abstains from eating, manufacturing his own personal process of fasting, practice yoga. तो artificially हमको fast करने की जरूरत नहीं है. The Krishna conscious person observes fasting as it is recommended in the scriptures. He does not fast or eat more than is required and is thus competent to perform yoga practice. One who eats more than required will dream very much while sleeping, and he must consequently sleep more than is required. So, there's another thing. If somebody is eating more, then he will have more sleeping and he will also dream a lot. One should not sleep more than 6 hours daily. One who sleeps more than 6 hours out of 24 is certainly influenced by the mode of ignorance. A person in the mode of ignorance is lazy and prone to sleep a great deal. Such a person cannot perform the yoga. That yoga means connecting with Krishna, connecting with the Supreme. The thing is that how? So there should be a balance, right? So here Papa writes about the 6 hours of sleeping right now. So the thing is that how? One should be active. We should be able to actively pursue Krishna consciousness, pursue our services. That much we should sleep. 6 means, let us say if you have a very hectic schedule, let us say, then you may need little more hours of rest also. Somebody may need little less also. But the thing is that after you get up, then what do you do? We should be able to give a quality attention to our services, quality attention to our practices. That much we should sleep, which helps us to have a quality time. Sometimes let us say a devotee is just trying to get up very early in the morning, not sleeping very less in the night. And in the whole morning program, the devotee is having a struggle. He's not able to hear properly, chant properly. That's not recommended. We should sleep sufficiently, should be able to see that how we can use the body for quality practices and quality services. That should happen. That should be the balance. And the balance will be different for different bodies also because we have different bodies, Kapha, Pitta, Vata bodies. Seasons also, like now it's a winter now. So in the winters, body needs little more rest because the chemical reactions, the metabolism, that becomes slow because of the winter's cold temperature. So we should say that how we should be able to be active. So we should be giving only less time to the body. That's the point. Then again, next shloka, very famous one, which we have quoted many times, which we know about, heard many times. युक्ताहार विहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः. Very important, huh? That yukta ahar viharasya. Hi. So here see the word yukt means what? Here the yukt means regulated. See the word yukt na, you can be used in other ways also. Like earlier, yukt means what? Na, properly situated. Or yukt also means one who is connected with the Supreme. But here yukt means regulated. So one should be regulated in one's eating. One should be regulated in one's vihar. Vihar means recreation. Recreation, the activities for refreshment. That's the viharasya. And yukta chestasya karmashu. In one's chesta. Chesta means one's work. One's work. One's karma. Karma means one's prescribed duties. So, right, our material duties, you can say. So one should be regulated in one's material duties. And yukta swapna avabodhasya, right? One should be regulated in one's sleeping and wakefulness. Yogo bhavati dukkha. Dukkha means ना ना, दुख खत्म हो जाएगा. दुख खत्म हो जाएगा. Yogo bhavati dukkha means what? Now, if a yogi will, now if a yogi will be regulated in one's activities, of all this, eating and the recreation and the duties and the sleeping, and then what will happen? Then his yoga will lead it to going up of the miseries. Hanti, dukha hanti. Dukha means dukha hanti, So what will happen, if somebody will perform yoga in this particular manner, uh, in which manner? In terms of regulation of the activities of the body, then what will happen? Then one will be able to get rid of the material miseries. Then one will not have experience of the miseries, which means what? If somebody is trying to perform the yoga, but one is not trying to regulate the material activities of the body, then what will happen? His yoga will be there, but it will be miserable yoga. Like, for example, suppose if somebody is overeating, then what will happen? Like in our case, no, we want to chant. But suppose if you have overeaten, then what will happen? We will try to do yoga, but it will not very miserable. It will not be a very pleasurable experience. Rather, it will be a miserable experience. It happens that sometimes we go very late night, suppose because of some reason. Then morning program becomes a very tough thing for us. So the yoga, if it is done with these bodily regulations, then it will be pleasurable. It will be lead to eradication of the miseries. But if we don't follow the regulation, then it will lead to the miseries. That's the point, So see, ahar means what? Eating, Viharasya means recreation, right? So yogi is there in the forest, he's trying to do meditation, Now see, it's a very difficult thing, sitting in the straight posture and then meditating upon the nose tip. It's a very difficult thing to control the mind like this. So he may also want to have a break. So yes, one a yogi can also walk in the forest, can see here and there, can see the nature and all. That's allowed. That's the vihar for a yogi. And similarly, chestasya karmashu, right? Prescribed duties. Like a yogi may also need to do some eating, sleeping, may also need to arrange some food from the forest and all. That should be in the regulation. Not that all the time of the yogi is just going for searching for the food. Just like in the case of the Bharat Maharaj, he was trying to perform the yoga, but then he ended up becoming illusioned, and he was spending a lot of time with the deer. That should not happen. That one may do the prescribed duties. Especially for a yogi, there is no prescribed duty for a yogi, and for a one who is performing Ashtanga yoga, he is no more doing. See, prescribed duties means like Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, that duties. But once one has taken to the Ashtanga yoga process, then he has no prescribed duty. So then his so so duty in his terms is what, sleeping, taking bath, arranging some food items. So that should be done in the regulation. And then similarly sleeping and getting up also. That should be also regulated. What happens, see, the thing is how, see, we are souls and we are attached into this material body. No? So, and our focus is what? We want to take our consciousness from material to spiritual. Then that can happen if it will happen if our activities will become regulated. If our mental activities will be regulated, suppose if our mental activities are not regulated, for example, like let us say, that somebody is sleeping at any time, somebody is getting up at any time, somebody is eating at any point of time, then all the time the mind will be, into those thoughts only. The mind will be into those bodily consciousness, and then mind cannot focus upon the higher realms, upon the higher spiritual truths. But on the contrary, if our these activities become regulated, like, okay, like in our case, we get up in the morning for morning program. Okay, then when we eat prasadam at fixed period of time. So then what happens, then the mind becomes controlled. The activities, when they become regulated, the mind becomes controlled, and then it is easier for us to focus upon the spiritual aspects. Our morning program, chanting, hearing, our spiritual activities, even our occupation and all also. But if suppose these activities are not regulated, eating, sleeping, and our sleep and all these things, so then what will happen? All the time our consciousness will be occupied into these things only, and then we cannot focus upon the spiritual practices, and we cannot make advancement. That's why Krishna is urging that how a yogi must regulate all these activities. Then his performance of the yoga will lead him to eradication of the miseries. Otherwise, if one is not regulated, then one will try to do yoga, but he will have a miserable yoga. No, he will have a dukha in his yoga. So we should also be seeing a balance. Like chestasya karmashu, right? Like us as the devotees, bhakti yogis. So yeah, we should see that how we may have to do some job and all, but it should not be taking too much of our time. We should be able to see that we are able to give a quality time for our spiritual life also. That should happen. We should strike a balance for that. And also see here, eating, sleeping is there, mating, right? Recreation. one of the forms of the recreation is mating also, है ना? And chesta, karmashu, right? Our activities which we do, they're meant for defending. They're meant for defending our eating, sleeping, mating, right? Like we want to go for some job and all. That is meant for helping us for defending, for helping us for our for arranging our eating, sleeping, mating. So in that way, this chesta karmashu refers to the defending process in one way. Go by writing. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all the mental planes by practicing the yoga system. So somebody will perform the yoga, regulating all these activities. Then what will happen? One will be able to become free from all these mental pains, and one will be able to will be able to focus upon the supreme. That will happen, right? Properly writing the purpose is very important. Extravagance in the matter of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, which are demands of the body, can block advancement in the practice of yoga. So see, extravagance, if somebody unnecessarily tries to, if somebody have overindulgence into these activities, then it will block the advancement. One will not be able to have spiritual. Again, why? Because the mind will be hooked into material consciousness only, bodily consciousness only. Mind will not get the chance to have spiritual consciousness. That's the point. So, now, as far as the eating is concerned, it can be regulated only when one is practiced to take and accept prasadam, sanctified food. Lord Krishna is offered according to the Bhagavad Gita, vegetables, flowers, fruits, grains, milk, etc. In this way, a person Krishna conscious becomes automatically trained not to accept the food not meant for human consumption or not in the category of the goodness. As far as the sleeping is concerned, a Krishna conscious person is always alert in the discharge of his duties in Krishna consciousness. And therefore, any unnecessary time spent sleeping is considered a great loss. Avyart kalatvam. A Krishna conscious person cannot bear to pass a minute of his life without being engaged in the service of the Lord. Therefore, sleeping is kept to a minimum. His ideal in this aspect is Sharup Goswami, who was always engaged in the service of Krishna and who could not sleep more than 2 hours a day, and sometimes not even that. Thakur Haridas would not even accept prasadam nor even sleep for a moment without finishing his daily routine of chanting with his beads 300,000 names. As far as work is concerned, a Krishna conscious person does not do anything which is not connected with Krishna's interest. And thus his work is always regulated and is untainted by sense gratification. And there is no question of sense gratification, there is no material leisure for a person in Krishna consciousness. And because he is regulated in all his work, speech, sleep, wakefulness, and all bodily activities, there is no material misery for him. Right? So material miseries, why do we feel more? Especially with respect to our bodily miseries, when we are not regulated in our activities. But if you do regulation, then we'll be able to have very swift yoga in our life. That's what Krishna is saying here. So see, one thing is time. Time is very precious. One cannot get the time back. Like say money. Suppose money, if you not spend now, tomorrow you can always spend the money. But when you talk about the time, once passed, passed. You cannot bring it back. So time is very precious. Time is very precious, and we should be using the time constructively for for elevating our consciousness. That's the purpose of the human form of life. So one should be a serious devotee. Serious devotee means what? Who has a sense of purpose and who has a sense of urgency. Both things. We should have a sense of purpose. What is our purpose? Our purpose is to become purified in our hearts, to develop our love for Krishna, to practice bhakti very nicely, sincerely. And there should be a sense of urgency also. Urgency means what? It's a urgent business. Uh, we have to practice sincerely today, from this moment onwards. We cannot postpone it for tomorrow. It's an urgent business because because our thoughts and the quality of the consciousness is going to determine our next destination. That's the point. So Krishna is urging her to have control. Again, further Krishna is saying, you see how these things have to be practiced. Again, 17th shloka. यदा विनियतं चित्तम् आत्मनि एवावतिष्ठते निःस्पृहा सर्वकामेभ्यो युक्त इति उच्यते तदा. See what it says? Yada viniyatam chittam atmani evavatishthate. Right? When the yogi, by the practice of the yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in the transcendence, atmani evavatishthate. Atmani here means what? The supreme. Devoid of all the material desires, nispriha, right? Without any material desires, he is said to be well established in the yoga. So this is the perfectional stage of the yoga, right? So like by practicing in this all this particular manner, 10 shloka onwards, Krishna again described about how one can rise from the yoga rusha to yoga rudha stage. So in this way, when somebody will practice like this, will go to the secluded place, will try to control one's body, mind, and one will try to have a uh, one will try to have meditation upon the supreme. So in this way, what will happen? Then one will become freed from all the material desires, and in this way, he will be able to situate in the transcendental. No, he will be able to have dhyan. He will be able to have dharana, dhyan, samadhi like that. So Paul is mentioning about a bhakti yoga, that how a bhakti yogi also becomes fixed in his meditation upon Krishna. That the activities of the yogi are distinguished from those of an ordinary person by his characteristic cessation from all the kinds of material desires, of which sex is the chief. A perfect yogi is so well disciplined in the activities of the mind that he can no longer be disturbed by any kind of material desire. This perfectional stage can automatically be attained by a person the Krishna consciousness. So a yogi has to do all these things. He has to practice brahmacharya, has to go to the forest, he has to try to control his mind, he has to have a sitting postures, then he can control his mental activities and can meditate upon the Supreme. But in the Bhakti Yoga, uh, one is directly meditating upon the Lord from the beginning itself. Very famous Ambesh Maharaj shloka. Sabay mana Krishna padaravindayor vacham Vaikuntha gunanuvarnane karo harir mandir marjana dishu shrutim chakara chut satkathodaye मुकुंद लिंगालय दर्शने दिशो तदभृत्य गात्रा स्पर्शे अंग संगमम गृहाणाम च तत्पाद सरोज सौरभे श्रीमत्तुलस्य रसनं तदर्पिते पादौ हरे क्षेत्र पदानुसर्पणे शिरो ऋषिकेश पदाभिवन्दने कामं च दासेन तु काम काम्यया यथोत्तम श्लोक जनाशय रति. So, how Amrish Maharaj was engaging all his senses in the service of the Lord. So that's the part of the Bhakti Yoga. That how, from the beginning itself, one learns to have meditation upon the Lord. One learns to use one's senses and the mind for the right purpose, as contrary to the yogis. Ashtanga yogis, they're trying to restrain their mind and senses. And that's a very tough process. But for the Bhakti yogi, right from the beginning, he learns to focus his mind and the senses on the service on the Lord. By writing, this transcendental stage may be subjectively by inexpressible subjectively by the followers of the impulsive path, but it becomes very easy and practical for a person in the Krishna consciousness, as is apparent in the above description of the engagements of Maharaj Amrish. Unless the mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord by constant remembrance, such transcendental engagements are not practical. In the devotional service of the Lord, therefore, these prescribed activities are called archan, or engaging all the senses in the service of the Lord. The senses and the mind require engagements. Simple abnegation is not practical. This is very important. No? We have to engage our mind and senses. Therefore, for the people in general, especially those who are not in the renounced order of life, transcendental engagements of the senses in the mind, as described above, is the perfect process for transcendental achievement, which is called the yukta in the Bhakta Gita, right? Especially, so remaining active, actively engaging into the service of Krishna is very, very important. Then one can control one's mind. So the mind becomes automatically controlled when it is for the service of Krishna. Otherwise, it's very difficult path. So till now, next shloka onwards we'll discuss later. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai.